Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Skip Mason,
pastor, preacher, historian, author,
teacher, librarian, archivist, world traveler,
collector, family historian, avid reader, and creator of the popular Vanishing Black Atlanta Facebook page.
With a lot of folks who love history.
Most importantly,
he's our
dad who loves his family and who taught us the importance of our history and having important conversations.
Join him now for this episode of Conversations with Dr. Skip.
Well, hello, everybody. Good Sunday afternoon, wherever you are. Let me take these borrowed readers off. As my sister said, these have rhinestones. You don't want to wear those on the air. I don't know where I got them from, but I'm so glad to greet you and welcome you to another conversation as the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church continues to march towards its 150th anniversary, which will take place during the weekend of December 11th and 12th in Jackson, Mississippi. And so over the last several months, I've had the fortune and honor to interview bishops and to interview persons within our church who have been a part of its history. And today is a double honor to share with two of the descendants of two of our great and distinguished bishops whose names are known throughout our beloved Zion. I'm going to be sharing with Brother William Beebe, who is the great-great-grandson of Bishop William Beebe. Beebe, a name that adorns many of the churches throughout our Zion. And I'm also going to be sharing with Tony Williams, who is the great-great-nephew of Bishop Robert S. Williams. So I'm excited, and I'm going to bring the two of them up in just a moment. I would ask that you would take a moment to host a watch party. It's so easy to do. Just hit share, hit watch party and host. And I promise you, someone's going to see it and are going to be curious enough to know what we're talking about. And please feel free to share the link. Also, we certainly invite you to put comments in the comment section. And I try to read those as we go along. Also, I'm excited to announce that as we are looking forward to this conversation next week, I'll be sharing with the families of two of our beloved bishops, the family of Bishop James Cummings and the family of Bishop Joseph Carlisle Coles. So that's on next Sunday, but let us get to this Sunday. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome the great-great-grandson of Bishop Joseph Beebe. I'm about to call you Bishop William.
Oh, you told something.
The great-great-grandson of Bishop Joseph Andrew Beebe, and also the great-great-nephew of Bishop Robert Simeon Williams, our sixth bishop. My brothers, welcome. How are you?
We're doing fine.
Good. Glad to have both of you here. And let me say that Tony Williams is with us all the way from Germany. Now, Tony, what part of Germany are you in?
So I'm in Wiesbaden, Germany. So it's in Hessen state.
And what takes you to Germany?
My job. So I'm still active duty military. This is my 19th year.
Okay.
And this is currently where I'm stationed into January, at which point I'll return back to the States.
And you'll return back to the States. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you further about the great research that you've done on the Williams family, including Bishop Williams. But we're going to begin this conversation with William. As I mentioned, by the order of election, Bishop Beebe was our third bishop elected. And so we're going to talk to William. And Tony, I'll bring you back momentarily, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, my brother. William, glad to have you. And William is all the way from the Bronx.
The Bronx, that's right.
All the way from the Bronx, New York. Well, I'm glad to reconnect with you. Reached out to you, I think it may have been several years ago when I was doing research and trying to find some living BBs. And thank God for Facebook. People can say what they want to say about Facebook, and Facebook can be a handful sometimes, but it is also a great way to reconnect with people that you don't know, families and connections. So William, tell me, when did you realize, when did you find out, and how did you find out that you were the great grandson of a bishop of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Before I get into that, I just want to tell you, I want to say thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, bless you.
You know, right now there's so much content on social media that is, you know, it's just content that's meaningless. This is very important for us to have shows like this, and for us to honor our brothers, whether and sisters, whether they're living or whether they're gone, to keep that memory and legacy alive. So I thank you so much for doing
Well,
that.
you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So this whole journey started, I want to say, so I started talking to my dad. We started getting close. I want to say about maybe 2012 or 2013, somewhere around there. And then, you know, he sent me, he gave me a call and he said, son, you know, there's a BB Memorial in Oakland, California.
You're right.
And he said, are we affiliated with that? Because he would always call me, you know, for tech support, but he would also call me to ask me to Google some things, to do some research.
And this is a picture of the great BB Memorial shared by its wonderful pastor, Reverend Dr. Charlie Haynes, who sent me some pictures. I appreciate that. But go ahead.
Right. So he said, are we affiliated with that? Now, my research is still going on, you know, in terms of that. But I said that I think we're affiliated more closely, I would say, with BB Memorial in North Carolina. And I said, you're going to be interested to know some of the history about the BB Memorial in North Carolina. And I told him that there's a bishop there, Bishop Joseph Alvin Beebe. He was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And he was on a plantation. And I said that our name was given to us by our slave owners. It was a Beebe family at this plantation. The Miss Melinda Beebe was the I believe the wife of the slave owner, and she took a liking to one of the children there. And she took him in and she taught him how to read. She taught him the shoemaker's trade, and she gave him the name Joe, and she called him My Joe. And he, you know, when after the Civil War passed, now this is where you can correct me, but he started the first CME church in North Carolina, I believe.
Well, I think, you know, he became a part of what was the Methodist Episcopal Church South, and he accepted his call to preach. And then they all ended up at the first conference. All of the conferences from the different states ended up in Jackson, and Jackson, Tennessee, and established what would become known as the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. And he was in North Carolina, so he was at a church that would eventually become a part of the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. So you're very right in your story and timeline.
So I found out that, you know, his dad, Edward, I don't know if it was Edward Carvin or Edward Craven. It's mentioned in different ways online, but he had about 17 children.
Woo.
Yeah, he had about 17 children. And so what I'm realizing is there's so much history there. You know, there's so much history behind the name Beebe, but then there's also history around, you know, what about those 16 siblings, you know, those 16 brothers and sisters, you know?
Yes.
So my story, you know, and my journey to discover this history, it goes deep. And I hit a roadblock. Before I get to that, my dad and I went to North Carolina.
Okay.
And before we went to North Carolina, I said to my dad, hey, Dad, I just found something online. Oh, actually, you know, my aunt sent me something.
Okay.
It was the last sermon that Bishop Joseph Alvin Beebe preached in 1902. And the name of that sermon was Preach the Word.
Preach the Word.
Preach the Word. And so I went down to North Carolina with my dad, and that was his first sermon that he ever preached in BB Memorial in North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And
I think, and I'll pull it up in a moment. But is this when you took the video? Did you
right,
piece this video together?
this is where,
Why don't we pause for a moment
okay,
and share that beautiful piece that you put together?
sure.
Okay.
How many of you got something to thank God for? How many of you got something to thank God for? You ain't got to tell nobody. Just thank God for what he done for you. Because I know where God brought me from the muck and the mire, from down in the valley, from down in the gutter. God picked me up, put my feet on a rock to stand. Hallelujah. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I might be from Baltimore, but it's the same God here in Little Washington. This ain't no time to be cute. These church folk out here trying to compete against one another. Who can preach the best? Who can look the best? It don't matter. Some of us try to be somebody else, but you don't have to be nobody else. Just be what God made you to be. You're unique and God loves you. As long as I got God, he's in control. And you need to know that. God is in control. Don't worry about what they say. Worry about what God say. I'll bless his name. God is trying to say to you. God is trying to say to me, keep it going. Ain't time to stop now. What you stopping for? We've got to keep moving and going forward. And when I think of where God brought me from, my soul rejoices. When I look at my grandfather on my right, look at my great-grandfather on my left, and it seems like they're looking at me, telling me, preach. My son preached the word.
My goodness.
He was feeling it that night. It was an amazing night, and I just felt like Bishop Joseph Alvin Beebe's spirit was just speaking through him, and you know, it's speaking to me as well. And I just want you to know that so this picture that you're putting up there now, this is from the Beebe Chapel, which is older than the Beebe Memorial.
In the Beebe Memorial, right.
And Dad and I had no knowledge about the Beebe Chapel and that history. And so we're still looking into that as well. But, you know, I just want you to know that I don't believe in coincidences. And I believe that God had you and I have this conversation.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And I believe that God is telling me, Will, you need to keep this going. You need to keep this research going. You need to connect the dots as best as you can. You need to link this up together, and then you need to move this legacy forward into the future.
I totally agree. And I tell you, first of all, that was such fire in that clip with your father's sermon. And I could feel, you know, the spirit of the ancestors and Bishop Beebe looking on one side, and then your great grandfather, William Beebe, looking, you know, and what a
can't even describe how powerful.
You can't describe the power of that moment and this moment, you know, as well. And the name is so synonymous with our church, BB. In fact, and let me first acknowledge our senior bishop, Bishop Reddick. I'm so excited to get into the interviews that I didn't get a chance to acknowledge the senior bishop and Mrs. Wendy Jones Reddick, and the College of Bishops and their spouses. And let me acknowledge Bishop James B. Walker and my bishop, Bishop Thomas Brown, and Dr. Louise Baker Brown and Mrs. Walker. You know, in the CME church, we are a protocol church, you know, and we do that. And certainly all of the bishops that I know are watching, and our wonderful friends who are joining in. I said that because last night, the wonderful Dr. Teresa Duhart, who handles the, you know, all of the technology and PR, we sent out a flyer announcing the show, and it got past us that we misspelled BB. I misspelled BB.
It happens so much.
I had B-E-E, and then I looked at it after they're gone out. I said, oh my God, it's B-E-E-B-E. And I contacted Sister Duhart, and she said, oh my God, I didn't catch it either. I said, you know, we got to change it because we will be burned at the stakes if we don't correct Bishop BB's name. So that's just how sacred the moment is and how special our bishops are and have been historically. So I want to share a couple of pictures that you've shared with me. Of course, your dad, and how long has your dad been preaching?
Ooh, you got to talk to my dad about that. But I believe since he was I want to say since he was a teenager, but
Since he was
you
a
have to, yeah, you have to talk to him about that. A long, long journey. He's been, he's been all over,
Yeah,
in this country, out of this country. He's had his church, but now, his mission is to reach people with an online ministry.
that's right. You
And
mentioned,
that's ecforallpeople.com.
yeah,
That stands for Emmanuel Church for All People.com. He just wants to reach people, wherever they are, and help people understand that the church is not just a building, but that
right.
the church is you. It's within you, and you need to activate that power of God within you.
Yes.
Yeah. So right now, what he's doing is he's building a school and
Okay.
a church over there in Africa and Kenya.
That is amazing. That is now. Did you know your grandfather? Or was he deceased before you were born? Or
Yeah, I didn't know my grandfather.
okay.
Once again, you will have, I
And
feel
we're
like we're gonna have, yeah, I feel like we're gonna have some more conversation. Hopefully we have
we,
more
we,
conversations
we're
offline
gonna
after
have
this
more.
because there's so much more history to go into.
It it
But
really is.
what I do know of my grandfather is that he was a member of the CME Church.
Yes, I think I read that in the obituary that you shared with me, and I'm excited. And then, of course, your great grandfather, the son, such a distinguished. I mean, the the,
Oh,
the, the the BB men look like African kings and prince.
oh,
I
thank you
mean,
so much.
just really. I mean, just I'm just receiving that Bishop Lakey, who's our historian, wrote the biography of the bishops, and he said that few persons have impressed the church in, let me take this down, in so short a time as Joseph A. Beebe. 2 years after joining the church, he became its third bishop, and Bishop Beebe was elected in the call conference in 1873. And that call conference was at Trinity CME Church in Augusta, where I served as the pastor for 7 years. And that church is filled with history. And three bishops were elected: Bishop Beebe, Bishop Hosey, and Bishop Lane. In fact, I'm going to share a few articles about that. It says that though he was a slave for 33 years before being set free, when it was against the law to teach slaves to read and write, he was able to record in his own hand the proceedings of the General Conference. Here is one of our rare collections. This is actually Bishop Beebe's signature
Oh, wow.
that I found on a document, and it's I think it's dated 1867, the second day of January.
Can
Uh,
you share this with me?
I will.
Oh, awesome.
Absolutely. It says, I, Joseph A. Beebe, an ordained minister of the gospel. And that's all I can say
Yeah, no,
right now.
looks like my handwriting right here.
That's enough for right now, but it just goes to show you the magnitude of Bishop Beebe. This is a picture of Bishop Beebe's wife, Mrs. Beebe, and back in the end of the
Look
late.
like they spelled her name wrong too.
They did too. I saw that, but they
So
did
it happened even back then.
they did this poster of all of the bishop's wives, which is really a priceless commodity in our church archives. And this is a picture of your great great grandmother.
Wow.
On top of that, and then there's this picture of one of their daughters. Her name was Elizabeth B.B. Owens.
Yes, trying to find
Trying to find her
something.
family. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but this is a beautiful picture, and there was a piece in the Christian Index on her. I want to just walk through, if you will, William, for a few minutes, some of the wonderful articles that we found on Bishop Beebe that was printed. This is one that says this is a Virginia conference of the Colored Methodist Church. Bishop Joseph A. Beebe presided. And then, of course, it begins to give the details of that. Here's another one regarding the conference and the Right Reverend J. Beebe of North Carolina, president of the conference. And most of these articles, and I do have the exact dates of these articles that I'll share with you. Here's another one. Bishop J. A. Beebe of North Carolina will hold services tomorrow at the CME Church. A full attendance is requested. This is from the Washington, North Carolina Gazette, announcing the notice of the death of Bishop Joseph Beebe last Saturday. He was senior bishop and was respected by all who knew him. We knew him well as Joe Beebe, the colored shoemaker. You mentioned that in Fayetteville many years since. From that humble position to a bishop shows what energy, ability, and integrity will accomplish. Another article regarding a conference in Topeka, Kansas, where Bishop Beebe presided over and made appointments. And this is when they were elected. Bishop Halsey, Bishop Beebe, passed through the city en route to Louisville. So it's just it's amazing the type of research. This one says that the funeral of Bishop Beebe Colored was held this afternoon and was one of the most largely attended funerals ever held in Eastern Carolina, and a large number of white people attended.
And that's what I noticed too, is that he spoke to not just black people, but to white people.
To white people.
You see it and you hear it and you read about it in the articles. Even it was controversial, I think, even at that time.
That's right. But he seemed to have really been respected by that.
He was respected by everyone.
Bishop, it says Joseph Beebe, Bishop of the CME Church, was in the city Wednesday. He preached a very impressive sermon last Thursday night at Miles Chapel and left on the afternoon train for Alabama on a general tour through his work homeward, but did not forget to subscribe to the man. I mean, the details that you find in this article, you won't find anywhere else. Because we don't have, oral history in some instances. So we depend on these articles to help to fill in the gap. I love this one.
And shows like this. We need more shows like this.
Bless you, my brother. The well-known colored preacher, Bishop J.A. Beebe, senior bishop of the Colored Methodist Church in America, died in his home. Bishop Beebe was an old slave and a good preacher. He brought his freedom. A few years ago, he held a colored conference in Shelby. It's amazing because you have men and women who were enslaved and years out of freedom, accomplishing these unimaginable feats in terms of education and elevation and articulation and reading and sharing. It's just absolutely.
Well, they say that he helped so many people and that he also put a lot of kids through school and that he housed people, people that were homeless. He did so many things for the community. It's just, there's so much to know about this man.
Yeah.
I want to make it my mission to find out more and more information about
I really do, William. I hope you do that and continue to dig and share. And, anything that I find, I'm going to make sure that you get it because you need to have it as a part of your research. He is, and one of the things that I do, I go and visit the final resting place as a bishop. I have not been to Washington, North Carolina, but I'm going to have to get there very soon. You let me know when you're going back. I might try to meet you there. And of course, you're the great filmmaker. You're the great filmmaker and cinematographer. So
well, the goal is eventually to do a documentary.
You got to do it.
That's the goal. But I need enough information to do that. But yeah, this is in Little Washington, I believe.
Right.
And they have a Beebe Memorial Park in Little Washington. They have a park, dedicated to Bishop Joseph Alvin Beebe. I don't know if you have the sign there that we were standing in front of. But,
I may have it, and let me shout out. Let me shout out to my seminary classmate, Ed Moultrie, because he about to have a fit because he pastored at BB. He's posted about 100 messages. Ed, let somebody else write messages. But that's my boy. Ed pastored BB in Washington, North Carolina, so he certainly would be one to share and to talk with. Let me.
Can I put my email here for Ed?
Yeah, you can, and I'll make sure that I share it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure that I share that so others can see that. But yeah, we need to. This is the time. Dr. Panay Woods is watching, and she is our executive director, and she has indicated. I hope I got your title right. I mean, she's one of the big wigs of the church. If I didn't get the title correct, but at any rate, she has mentioned that we are celebrating in Tennessee the 150th in December, and I sure hope once they get it out, that if you're able to come and make it to Tennessee, I mean, to have a descendant of a bishop, of several bishops in the place, I think would certainly add to the texture of what we are trying to do, because part of our celebrating is to acknowledge the ancestors. I just got off of a 4-hour Zoom with persons, kings and princes from the Igbo tribe out of Nigeria. And I received my Igbo name today. That's why I was not able to meet you at 4:30. But the honor that they pay and give to the ancestors and to those that have come before us, we cannot celebrate 150 years and not look back.
Right.
And not call out these bishops' names and these names of preachers and pastors and lay and missionary and the known and the unknown. We have to call their names out. When we call them out,
that's it.
They start gathering up in the clouds.
That's why they call it that power. And
that's why they call it a great cloud of witnesses. When you call their names out, wherever they are up in heaven, they begin to gather. And so I see all of the CMEs up in heaven, all of the bishops, Bishop Beebe and his wife, and Bishop Williams and his wife, and all of them are gathering to look down to see, what are we doing? What are we doing, and where are we going with what we've learned and what we've done? So I tell you, I just, I as my children like to say, Daddy, you get up all in your feelings sometimes. I say, yeah. I say, you just don't understand. You don't know, and that's why it's important that you do know, and that we take moments like these to share the rich history of that, and to issue a clarion call, because there may be people out listening and watching who may have information, about the BB family, may have known. I hope
that's the case. I hope that's the case. This is an open call for that information.
Absolutely.
I really want to bring things together. I really want to. This is an honor to honor the CME Church. It's also a personal honor for me just to be associated, by name to this legacy. It's an amazing thing.
I tell you, I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to spend this time and to acknowledge the name and legacy and the family lineage of Bishop. Now, did I ask you if you've taken the DNA test, or were you planning to take the DNA test?
I did. You talking about the ancestry?
The ancestry DNA.
Yeah, I did that. But, and you know what? Someone did reach out to me from Ancestry.com, who I linked up with. It was a cousin of mine, and she's now going to the BB Memorial Church.
Yes.
She realized that she was a part of this BB legacy. The like I said, there's no coincidence. After getting this information in 2017, I made the video. We went to North Carolina. Then life happened. Yeah. And after that, I just stopped.
That's what happened.
I hit the wall, and God's working through you, saying, what are you doing? What are you doing with this information? You're the link. I told you were the link. I told you were the glue. I told you that there are pieces out there you need to go get. And I stopped. But right now, this conversation that we're having right now is just lighting a fire under me. It's just I feel like I did when I first got that information in 2017.
Well, you responded quickly. I mean, when I emailed you, and I was so excited. As I think I shared with you, and both Brother Tony, and I'm going to bring Tony back up now, that I'm finishing up a book. I've been working on this book probably about 3 or 4 years. And like you, life happens. You know, I was finishing up my doctorate and doing other things, and I got kids. My book is in their own words, 150 years of wisdom from the bishops of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. I'm telling you, my brothers, I have been blown away by the wisdom that has come from sermons and speeches from these men and women. Bishop Snorton, of course, the first female bishop of our church. And so when you shared with me, William, the sermon, man, my blood started curdling. It was so powerful. So let me put this up for a second. And I just want to share a line. This was the last sermon that Bishop B.B. preached before 1,000 people in 1902, because he died in 1903. He took his text out of 2 Timothy 4:2, preach the word. Every kingdom or government is furnished with sufficient set of officers whose business is to secure peace if possible. If it is often necessary in the bounds of those government to have what is called trumpets to blow, to give certain sounds to warn the people, and the church of God is dominated as his kingdom. The people are his subjects, particularly the members of his church are his special subjects. As Bishop Beebe is doing, as we say, he's painting the picture. I tell you, and here's a man that 35 years prior to was enslaved. But his mind was not enslaved. His body was not enslaved. His spirit was not enslaved. Here's a man of great letters, of great learned knowledge. And then he closed with this. And this was the preachers. May God help you to preach it. May God pour his divine spirit in your hearts. May God sanctify our souls and save us in his kingdom is my prayer. Amen. J.A.B.B. presiding bishop. That's power. I'm grateful for you in terms of sharing this and allowing me to feature some of this in my book so that others can be inspired as well. Tony, William, anything else you want to share before we transition? You certainly will.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm blessed to be a part of this conversation, and we'll be talking again.
I know we will. I know we will, brother. Well, you hang around as long as you would like, and I'm going to transition now. And but here's listen to this is the not the irony, but the divine nature of this. So your great-great-grandfather was elected in Trinity. Okay, I mentioned that to you earlier, the church that I pastored for 7 years. And let me put that picture up if I can get to it right quick, because I want to put it up. Okay, so Bishop BB, Reverend BB became bishop in this church. And some few years later, Reverend Robert Simeon Williams was the pastor of the church. Wow. And it was from this church that he was elected the bishop, the sixth bishop of the CME church. I'm telling you, when I served as the pastor of Trinity, I was in history heaven. That church is so filled with history. Now the old building is still standing, thankfully, but the church is so filled with history. William, thank you, my brother. God bless you. And we'll be in touch soon. And I'll make sure that I share your information in fact, what is your email address?
It's
if they like.
Contact me at williambb.com.
williambb.com.
So it's contact me at williambb.com.
Awesome. And I think I'm gonna have that scroll across the bottom so they can see it.
But put contact me at though.
Oh, okay. Contact me at williambb.com. Did I spell BB?
You gave me the scroll. I love it.
Contact me at.
I feel like we're on CNN.
Listen, I'm doing it, man.
That's it. You're doing it. You're doing it. Hold on.
Contact me at
williambb.com.
Okay.
Let me see.
All right. Let me make sure I got this correctly here.
Sure.
All right. I hope I do. If not.
The @ sign. The @ sign.
I got it. I should have known that. All right, we'll get that corrected. And
I appreciate you so much. This has been an awesome conversation.
welcome. Thank you so much. And all right, here we go. I think I got it now.
That's me.
There you go. All right. God
That's
bless
me.
you, my brother. We'll be
God
in
bless
touch. And now is my opportunity to share with the great, soon-to-be Dr. Tony T. Williams. Tony, so glad to have you back, and thank you for sharing. And it's a pleasure to meet you because you've done a lot of research on the Williams family. And so I want you to talk about, if you would, your great uncle and the research that you've done on the Williams family. And let me, of course, put this photo up as well. And I mean, there is striking resemblance. Have you been told that before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah, I'm sure you. Yeah, I'm sure you have. There is really striking resemblance. Tell us about the Williams family and Bishop Williams.
So I began the research about 10 years ago as a just a legacy project I wanted to build for my sons. So from what I was able to research, the family is very huge. So from what I was able to discover, Bishop Williams, of course, my great uncle, had about 13 siblings. So I was very surprised by that because I didn't know that prior to beginning the research. And of course, his younger brother, which is my great grandfather, he had about 9 children himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the family is pretty big.
And let me put your great grandfather up so people can see him as well. Is that him?
Yes, sir. Yes. So his name was so on all the documents he's listed as either J.Y. Williams or Yancey Williams. But we believe his first name was Jasper, just based off of their father, who was a William Jasper Sullivan. But we all pretty much know him as Yancey Williams. And he actually died quite young. He died in 1901 at the age of 40. Whereas Bishop Williams lived to be 73, and his other brother lived to be about 79, which was Elder Charles Williams. He was also a CME pastor, and he became an elder. And I found some of the documents where he was this presiding elder in Louisiana, where we're from, in the Minden district.
Yes.
So I was able to learn a lot from that. But what really started it all is when I found the burial site of my great grandmother, their mother, and her name was Edith Carolyn Williams. But when I found her tombstone on it is how we learned the history, because it said mother of Bishop R.S. Williams of Augusta, Georgia, and C.H. Williams.
Wow.
So we knew their names from research, but we didn't know that one was a bishop and one was an elder. So from her tombstone, which still stands in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, that's what gave me the lead to start researching that, because the family was CME at that time, and of course it changed to Baptist. But my mother, even though she's Baptist, she's a pianist in the CME community. So I grew up going to CME churches and Baptist churches, and she still plays for a church now, which is East Mission CME Church, which is in Caddo Parish. And we've always been associated with the church throughout my life, but it was what I learned through the research that we actually had members that served as ministers within the denomination.
Yeah, and Caddo Parish is located very close to Arkansas and Texas.
Right. Yeah. So that area, a lot of times they call it Texarkana,
Yes.
and that's why, because it definitely sits right on the border of all three.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you began to do your research on your family. That's a huge family, and
Right.
I'm certain there are lots of Williams descendants around. Many you know, and probably some you have not met. When did you find out and learn about Bishop Williams? And what has your research revealed?
So with Bishop Williams, I really became more familiar with him and his impact with the church about a year and a half ago, and I just found his whole life to just be amazing. You know, for someone who basically was born in Louisiana, you know, pre-Civil War,
Yes.
and was able to really come along and accomplish the things he was able to during Reconstruction. Because from the research I found, you know, I saw that in Augusta, he was at one period of time the president of Penny Savings Bank.
Yeah.
Later on,
The,
later on, he was
the building is
oh, go
still
ahead.
standing. I'm sorry. The building is still standing in Augusta.
Right,
Yes. Yes.
right. So he was the president of that, and around the 1920s, he was working with something called the Citizens Trust Fund, or company. And of course, with the colleges, he was pretty active. He was on the board for Miles College as well as Payne's College, and I really thought his activism was really good too, because I did find articles where he was a delegate with the Georgia State Republican Convention in the 19 for I believe it was 1912 when Theodore Roosevelt was actually trying to run against Woodrow Wilson.
Wilson.
So it was really interesting to see someone able to accomplish so much. Because I know growing up in school, you know, you're not, at least I wasn't in Louisiana, we weren't really taught a lot about the Reconstruction period.
That's
But
right.
when you really search it, there was great advances by people like Bishop Williams, Bishop Beebe, Bishop Lane, all of those founding fathers of the CME Church. And to me, I just find that inspirational to see what they were able to accomplish and so quickly for the church and for our race.
Tony, I too am amazed by that. And as you continue to do your research, I mean, the full story of Bishop Williams has yet to be told. He was a man that amassed great wealth as well. I understand that, you know, that when he died, he had considerable wealth and property in Augusta. In fact, his house, and I have not been successful in finding a picture of his house, but his house now sits on property that is a part of the Augusta University complex. It was the old Medical College of Georgia. And they purchased all of that property, including his house. This is a picture of his wife, Mrs. Williams, that you've seen, taken from that same portrait where some of the other bishops' wives were featured. Bishop Williams was well traveled to London, England, a number of times to attend the World Methodist Conference. And this is a picture of him at one of those conferences. And I think you shared a couple of others with me earlier today. And so, I mean, it's just amazing that these men were able to accomplish so much during the time that they lived in, that they did not let obstacles and they were not deterred by Jim Crowism and all of these other factors, and that they were men of the cloth, as we say, in the pulpit, preaching and teaching and sharing. Let me just put up a couple of images, and I want you to continue to share. This is that great convention and general conference in Louisville that you and I had a long discussion on, and we finally came to the conclusion that Bishop Williams is not on here, along with Bishop Lane, but these are some of the other bishops there. Some pictures of Bishop Williams. He was the senior bishop of the church when he died and appeared on the cover of the Christian Index quite a number of times. Somewhere in the document, I even found his signature, which I just beautiful, signature. Here we have Williams Temple Church. Lots of churches are named for him, including the Great Williams Memorial here in Augusta, Georgia, as well. And so, what is your desire to publish a book on Bishop Williams and the Williams family? Tell me, what do you hope to do with the research that you've done?
Well, initially, like I said, it was just really a project I wanted to do for my sons, just to pass on our history. But now that I've discovered so much, I am very interested in trying to, put together a book. Obviously, I still have a pretty busy schedule because I'm still active duty,
Hmm.
Army, and as you mentioned, I'm still a student as well, trying to work on my doctorates. But I definitely would like to put a book out at some point because I think that his life is definitely worthy of being captured and put into a professional manuscript where people can access it and learn. Because I think the way he lived and a lot of the speeches he gave gives good insight into the times. Because one thing I was going to mention when you showed that picture of him in England, I actually was able to get an original 1901 print, which has it's the Third Ecumenical Methodist Conference, and it actually has all of the speeches, including that one, in it.
Does it really? Oh,
And
wow.
right, yeah. So I had a chance to read it, so it's really nice. And I also was able to actually find an original print of his 1902 book of sermons, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
right, so I did have a. I'm actually still reading through it, but yeah, it's just amazing that a lot of these books are still out there, and it really just I think gives insight into who they were, but the times they were living in.
I totally agree with you. I have the book of sermons, and it is some of the most profound writing I've ever read in my life. It is so intense. It is so deep. It's so scholarly. It is so uh, biblically researched, and supported. It's amazing, and I say it's amazing because I'm trying to still remember the time that they lived in, the period of time, and access to education. And the CME Church has always put emphasis on education,
Right.
educating its preachers. I have unearthed a plethora of comments and quotes from the bishops on education. And I've said to this my Facebook family a number of times, Bishop Miles especially, love to talk about, we got preachers in the pulpit who can't read, preaching to children who are going to school that can read. And he says something to the effect that either you are going to bring your pulpit down to the children or you're going to raise your pulpit up. I just think that's one of the most profound statements, that we got to teach and we got to create means to educate our preachers. So here we have the establishment of Lane College. We have the establishment of Miles College. We have the establishment of Texas College. We have the establishment of the Phillips School of Theology. All of these efforts to raise the level, if you will, of our church and the intellect of our church in terms of its emphasis on education, on Sunday school, on the Epworth on making sure that our brothers and sisters in the church are literate. And I think that is something that we can certainly marvel at. I want to put up a few articles that I found, and I shared with you some of these you have. Before I do that, this is his passport.
Right.
A copy of his passport, and all of the places listed that he plans to visit: England, Belgium, all of these places. I can only imagine what that experience must have been like. Of course, this is an article on his passing. He died. I'm trying. What year did Bishop Williams? I think he died in 1932. Okay.
Right. It was January of 1932.
January of 1932, and Bishop Williams is, of course, buried in Augusta, Georgia.
Right.
And let me tell you about this project. And one of the things I wanted to do was to locate the grave. And we knew it was at Southview Cemetery. And I went out there and couldn't find it. Not Bishop, but former presiding elder, Gene R. Dean, many folks know him. He remembered exactly where he was buried. The reason we could not find it, because it had been covered up entirely with brush and trees and bushes and the whole 9 yards. And so the presiding elder then at that time, presiding elder J. Ronzel Manis, gathered a crew, and they went and they cleaned. They redid the brick fountain. It was a beautiful thing. And then we dedicated it when Bishop Carter brought the College of Bishops to Augusta for the 175th anniversary of Trinity CME Church. But here's a picture of me at Bishop Williams' grave, and his wife is buried there as well as two kids. Two little kids are buried at the end of that. So if you ever have you had a chance to visit it yet? Have you been there?
So ironically enough, I've been to Augusta with my job 3 different times.
Okay.
But at that time, I wasn't aware that he was buried there. So I haven't seen his burial site yet, unfortunately.
Let me know when you come, and I'll travel to meet you there and to show you and give you the Bishop Williams tour as I learned it when I was in Augusta. A couple more articles I want to share that really, and let me stop for a moment, because those of you who are researching histories of your church, histories of pastors and people in your church, there are so many resources that you can use. Newspaper.com is one of those that does an incredible job of pulling articles from some of the most obscure newspapers and journals across. ProQuest is another journal. They're Black newspapers you can find online that will help you to write the history. Every church should have a written history. And all of our bishops, of course, Bishop Lakey has done a tremendous job in documenting these many bios of our bishops. But there's, of course, continued work to be done to expand the story. He whets our appetite. You know, my book. Did I tell y'all I was writing a book? Did I mention that earlier? This is what we call, Tony, a shameless plug on a book that is in process finishing, but my book is due out in December, and it is in their own words and capturing the wonderful thoughts, words, wisdom, rebuke of our beloved bishops. And so Bishop Williams is prominently featured in the book, and I'm just delighted that he is. Great admiration for him. So what's next for you in terms of research on the Williams family?
Well, I'd like to know more about the Williams line, because right now it's stopped with my 3rd great grandmother, which is Edith Carolyn Williams.
Okay.
So obviously with their father, Sullivan, we are able to trace more because the records are better kept. But I'd like to know more about the Williams line, because all we do know is, of course, we know when she was born,
Yes.
all of her children, when she passed away, and where she's buried. And we do know that she was listed throughout her life as mulatto up until like the late 1890s, early 1900s. So I would be interested to know more on her line. I think it'd be interesting since we know so much on like the Sullivan line. But I'd like to know that. And of course, if I can figure that out, then I would like to go, east and west and try to learn more about all the siblings, because really out of the 12 siblings, I only know a little bit about 4, which are, of course, Bishop Williams, Elder Charles Williams, my great-great-grandfather, Yancey Williams. And there was a daughter that I ended up making contact with one of her descendants through, of course, Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
So I've learned a little more about one of the daughters, but I definitely would like to build that knowledge base more.
That would be great. Now, Bishop Williams' daughters, he had daughters, and have you been able to find any of those descendants yet?
So I haven't yet. I did see articles on some of his a granddaughter and grandson.
Okay.
They're older. I think, yeah, they're pretty older. But they had some articles in the papers, because one of his last daughters She passed away. She was born in the late 1890s, but she
Okay.
actually lived to be 106. So she died in the 2000s.
Oh, wow.
And her name was Arteria Williams Dyer, but she ended up marrying her husband, who was a World War II veteran, and she became one of the initial founders of the one of the sorority chapters of the Tuskegee chapter. So
Oh,
she had some interesting history herself, but I was able to track down some of her children
okay.
based on articles that were published about her, about her husband, and when she passed away. Of course, a big article was put out in the newspaper.
In the newspaper, right.
Right, right. It looked like you may have froze.
Um, but I think we're back now. I can see you.
Right.
And I think we're doing fine, considering you are all the way in Germany.
Right, right.
To have it, it gives me hope for my interview with Bishop Umorte, who is our bishop in Africa, Nigeria, and I'm looking forward to that. Look at Joan Gilmore Oglesby. When I said, "Did I tell you about my book?" Knowing I had already told you, she said, "Yes, you did." Joan, you're supposed to be on my side, my sister. But at any rate, I tell you, I'm so incredibly grateful to you and to William for sharing with me. Been wanting to do it for quite a time, and I knew the right time would happen when I could bring you on and to have you talk about the tremendous research that continues. And whatever I find, I'm going to share with you. And I hope that the providence will open up so that those direct descendants of Bishop Williams, the family members can be discovered and continue to add to that story. Both Bishop Beebe and Bishop Williams are two of the great names of our church. I was going to bring William. I want to bring you back up when he comes back. Amen. All right, there he is. But two of the great names of our church. And I'm just so blessed to have the two of you here with us to share about them. Let me put this up again. William said, can you find another picture of me to I said, no, it's already done. Dr. Duhart is already
delivered.
shout out to Dr. Duhart, so it's gonna have to do. I said, man, that picture looks good, and and of course this one of you, Tony, and Bishop Williams. So continue to research and to dig, as Alex Haley used to say, to find the good and praise it. They are depending on us to tell their story. They're depending on us to write it, because if we don't, who will? 150 years as a church, which in the history of mankind is not a long time, but it is a long time for a church founded after slavery by a group of 41 men, and who until 2010 did not elect this first female bishop, and all that has gone in between, the stories that are yet to be told and the conversations that we are yet to have. And I'm so excited that the good Lord has provided me this platform to gather the village and to gather the elders and the young guns and the prince and princesses to gather to have the conversation. People are the better because they have laid eyes on the two of you, and they know that BB and Williams are not just names of churches, but they belong to men once out of slavery, as Booker T. Washington said, up from slavery, and who have gathered to share the story. So continue to press on. Sister Bush, it's newspapers.com. That's the name of it. You have to pay a little subscription fee for that, but it is well worth it. And I want to shout out to Stacy Mims, who is a research angel for me, who goes and helps me to pull articles because he knows that I'm writing, and he pulls these articles and he sends them to me so that I can have to help along in my research. Immediately after we finish this program, which we're about to finish, I invite you to share. Bishop Brown and Bishop Lakey are in a joint convocation on Facebook Live, and let me put my glasses on to read it. It is hosted by the Columbus, the Cordele Columbus District, the South Columbus Cordele District on Facebook. So Google South Columbus and Cordele District on Facebook, and you should be able to find Bishop Lakey and Bishop Brown in convocation, which is why I shortened this show to 1 hour. Before we leave next Sunday, I look forward to meeting you here at the same time with the families of Bishop Cummings and Bishop Coles as we continue to have this wonderful and important conversation Facebook Live celebrating 150 years of the CME Church. God bless you, my brothers. I will be in touch with you soon and share what I have and continue to keep on keeping on. And as I always like to close, I love you, God loves you, and remember, Black lives
matter.
do matter. Have a great day.
Amen.
Continue the conversation.